Hi everyone, in this week's video we'll be discussing one aspect of the Employment Rights Bill that we know will be coming into force relatively soon, rather than the glut of announcements we're likely to hear in the next few weeks and months about longer term changes under the bill. So we are discussing the reform of statutory sick pay, and in the video I'll just run through the changes that are coming into force and the gaps that still remain in that legislation. So, most importantly, the bill will enable SSP to be payable from day one of sickness absence. So they are removing the 3-day waiting period at present, and the lower earnings limit for SSP eligibility will be removed as well. This will naturally result in increased liability for SSP and may have unintended consequences in relation to the level of sickness absence taken, albeit government says that this will help more people get back into work. As I say, the changes are meant to come into force in April 2026. Some campaigners have said that these changes do not go far enough. There have been 2 debates in Parliament which have rejected increasing to the level of statutory maternity pay and also increasing to the level of the national living wage. The concern was that too much of a burden will be placed on businesses in those circumstances. There will be no rebate scheme for small businesses, too expensive to administer, very complex, and we don't know at present whether the self-certification regime will be removed. So this is the ability of the employee to self-certify their absence within the first 7 days. So the 3-day waiting period will be abolished. To achieve that, the period of incapacity for work will no longer mean a period of 4 or more consecutive days. Instead, it will be defined as a period of 1 day or 2 or more consecutive days, each of which is a day of incapacity. Government's view is that this will assist in phased returns to work, the suggestion being that if an employee, for example, returned working 2 days and took sick leave for the other 3 days in the week that they may work, previously SSP would not have been payable for those days because they would have been waiting days. The suggestion is that this will therefore assist with a phased return because it will improve pay and therefore motivation to come back to work. I don't necessarily agree with that, because an employee receiving sick pay could delay a phased return for a longer period of time, having been entitled to the waiting days in the first place. And as we said, the lower earnings limit will be removed. So the concern at first was that that could actually lead to employees receiving more in sick pay than they would have done in their wages if they earned a relatively low level. To provide for that, the government has included that the prescribed weekly rate will be the rate of SSP will be the lower of the prescribed rate and 80% of normal weekly earnings. So the employee will be entitled to the flat rate of SSP, whatever that is, and it's uprated every year, unless their earnings are lower than that, in which case they will receive 80%. That again has an unintended consequence, because an employee with weekly earnings of £125, for example, would be eligible for SSP at the current rate of £116.75. Under the new regime, they would only receive 80% of their earnings, which would be £100, so they would actually lose out under the system. This is expected to be a minority of employees, and the suggestion is that the removal of waiting days should be taken into account when assessing the overall benefit. So we are waiting for final confirmation that of the regulations being, or this aspect of the bill being implemented. We also await news on the self-certification regime, but the future sick pay bill will have to be taking into account the changes in the Employment Rights Bill, and those liabilities could indeed increase. We will of course keep you updated on progress on other measures under the bill as they happen. If you do need any further support in the meantime, please do get in touch. Visit chadwicklawrence.co.uk or email employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk. Thank you.